Hey everyone, it's Marley, aka Type 1 Reader, and I just finished doing my Swordcatcher reading vlog, and now I'm ready to dive into my Oathbound reading vlog. Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. This is the third book in the Legendborn Cycle series. I've absolutely been loving this series, and I'm so excited to be reading the third book with you guys and doing a spoiler-filled reading vlog, similar to how I did for the second book, Bloodmarked, which is up on my channel if you want to check it out. I did actually just rewatch that video today to refresh myself on everything that went on in the second book. It was a lot. I know it was a lot and that I really loved it and gave it 5 stars. And so I feel pretty refreshed going into this third one. If you're here, I assume you have also read the books and you're looking for a review and someone else's thoughts. So I don't know how much I need to rehash the first 2 books for you guys. But in case you don't know, or in case you want just the spoiler-free section, this series, starting with the first book, Legendborn, is about our main character, Bree. She is a teenage girl who's recently lost her mother, and she goes to this like kind of boarding school situation. She ends up getting wrapped up in this secret society that is based around Arthurian legends. Basically, the society is made up of all of the like descending families of Arthur and the Round Table. There are also people called Merlins, who are basically like people with magic. To be honest, I cannot list off all of the details of this magic system. I think I'll have to get a little further into the book for all of it to come back to me, but basically it was revealed that Bree is a bit of a chosen one because she is the descendant of King Arthur, which makes her very, very special in this world. She is the descendant of King Arthur, but also of root magic. So she is just basically really, really powerful. And as I said, very much chosen one vibes going on here. We also have a love triangle between Nick and Selwyn. Nick is descendant of Lancelot, I believe, and then Selwyn is kind of like our Merlin character. So we have the reincarnations of Arthur, Lancelot, and Merlin in here. Selwyn and Bree are just a favorite couple of mine. That's one of the reasons I love this series so much, is I love the romance between the two of them. Still not sure if they will be endgame because there's also Nick in the love triangle, but hoping we get some good Bree and Selwyn moments in this book because they are one of my favorite parts of this series. The last book ended basically with Selwyn descending into his full like demonhood because Merlins are like demons or part demon. So Bree has made a deal to try to save him, where she has sent him off to go try to be saved by his mother, Natasha, who apparently has beat Demonia before, and the deal she made was with the Shadow King, who is our main villain. He has, I think, a bunch of different names, but basically he's just this big demon guy that wants to, I think, absorb Bree's power, and so she's made a deal with him where he's going to train her to learn how to use her abilities. Her ultimate goal, I think, is just to become powerful, like reach her ultimate power, and I think his goal is to eventually steal that power. So they're kind of working together but also working against each other, and she's made this kind of promise or oath with him, so I think that's where the title comes from. The fact that he is on the cover here makes me nervous, like it's mainly just going to focus on her and this demon guy. I hope we can still see our other characters that we love, her other friends and love interests and stuff. It is quite a long book. It's over 600 pages, so I think a lot's going to go down. The text is not even that big, like it's kind of small, so this is going to be quite a long book. I'm hoping I have time to read it in the next week. Basically, today I'm going to a wedding, which is why Dakota has his suit there and I have curled my hair already. But then as of Friday, I am going on a work trip, which I've extended as a personal trip as well, so I really need to get this done before then so I can have this video prepped and ready to go while I am away. So that's the goal. I don't think it should be a problem of me like enjoying the book or not. I think the problem will be finding time to actually sit down and read all of it. But yeah, I think I'll do my usual check-ins for every 100 pages. So I will see you soon once I have gotten 100 pages in. Alrighty, time for a check-in for Oathbound. I am 130 pages in. To be honest, I'm not feeling great about it. I'm feeling like it is a little rough and I'm very nervous to continue, especially when I have a time limit on this. I need to finish it for Friday or before, and now I feel like I'm not going to enjoy it as much. Like I'm not going to be able to just sit there and read as much as I would like because I'm struggling with it a bit. Basically, we had this like multi-chapter prologue, which kind of threw me off there for a minute. But we were seeing from Bree's point of view, she's with the Shadow King, and we're seeing a little bit of like him starting to train her to first of all kind of like hide her magic, like block people from sensing her and stuff like that. Didn't love those chapters because I don't love any scenes with the Shadow King, to be honest, but at least we were seeing Bree. Now that we are getting into the like part 1, we are having different points of view, which I believe is the first time we've had that in the series. I don't recall if it happened in previous books. I don't think it did. So far we've had William's point of view and Mariah. And so first of all, I'm like, who are these characters? Because I did not really remember. I didn't reread the previous books in preparation or anything, but it did start to come back to me with William. He is like the healer on the team, so I did remember him and kind of Bree's relationship with him. Mariah did not remember, but as I read her perspective, I figured out that she is part of like the root magic community, which Bree connected with in the last book and learned about. Struggling a little because I don't remember all the details, but it's not too hard to put it all together. Again, there's a lot of those terms of like Scion and Merlins and Regents and all this stuff, which just kind of takes a bit of time to kind of take it in and recall what they all mean, but it is coming back to me. But my biggest issue is that we're reading about these other characters and we're not seeing Bree's point of view, and I understand why from a story standpoint, but I just don't love it. Tracy, like Bree is our main character and I want to see from her. I feel like I would prefer seeing her training more than seeing these other characters. They're not that important of scenes in my opinion. Like the fact that this is over 600 pages already, I'm like, I see how it could have been cut down, to be honest. So I don't want to be like a total hater, but it's just making it a little rough because I don't really care to read from these other people's points of view. One of my favorite parts of this series is Bree and Selwyn's relationship and dynamic, and the fact that both of them are just off missing. It sucks. Not only do I not get to see them individually, I don't get to see them together, obviously. So I think the first part is going to be rough, and I just have to hope that eventually Bree will come back to the forefront of the story. Eventually Sel will come back to the forefront of the story. Eventually, hopefully they will get scenes together, but at least, I mean, we are seeing Nick, even though we haven't seen his point of view yet. It's at least nice to see him. His character, he's kind of stepping it up. Like, I never disliked his character, I don't think, but he was just kind of like there from what I remember. But I feel like he is definitely the star of the show right now in the perspectives that we're getting. He is the most interesting character and the one we've been most invested in. So hopefully we will get some perspectives from him because I think that would be good. But yeah, first 100 pages, it's feeling rough. Hey vlog, I'm now over 200 pages into Oathbound. I'm at page like 240 basically. For the rest of part 1, we were still following the other characters besides Bree. I did like seeing Natasha's point of view, which was Selwyn's mom, because then we got to see a little bit of what Sel is up to. She's just basically trying to cure him of the demonia. And we saw that Nick kind of did this smart little maneuvering with the regents or whatever, and he is going to go on a quest with William and Larkin, and that's kind of where it left off, I believe, of part 1. And then now getting into part 2, we are finally back to Bree's point of view, thank God, and instantly I am enjoying the book more. Like, I guess it just makes sense. Like, she's the main character for a reason. I just want to know what she is up to more than these other people. She has been with the Shadow King for a couple months now. They've been training, and it's kind of a weird dynamic because like he's the villain. He has his little sidekicks, the twins, Elijah and Zoe, who are like working for him. So they're like the villains, but then she is actually like bonding with them, especially the twins. She just went out on a little errand with them and they had like a bonding moment over like all being queer, which was kind of funny. I don't remember if Bree ever like confirmed this before, but it seems like she's pan and it seems like the twins are also fluid, so that was kind of funny. But also, I don't know, all of this demon stuff and like the hierarchy of it is kind of confusing for me. I definitely don't fully understand all of it, and I'm like allowing myself not to understand all of it because there's all these different types of demons. There's like the balanced demons that are like half human, half demon perfectly, and then there's other ones that are like more demon and ones that are more human. I think Merlins are ones that are more human, but honestly it's kind of confusing. And now we've just learned about this new kind of sect of demons called the Nightshades, I think it was, and it's this like separate group of demons. We also have a separate group of kind of the order or whatever, the Morganes, who are kind of like descended from Morgana. So they are getting mentioned. It's kind of convoluted, to be honest. I can't blame anyone who reads this series and gets kind of annoyed with all of this because it is kind of confusing, but trying to follow it as best as I can. But yeah, Tracy, she's really building out this world a lot. But anyways, it seemed like the twins and Bree were kind of like hunting demons, maybe as part of her training, but like I don't really know why the demons would go against each other like that. I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit confused. And like the fact that she's getting like close with this Shadow King, but I'm like, he's a villain. But it's like they're trying to, I think, introduce a new villain, because when she was out, she saw this girl, this other like root crafter, was kidnapped by this man who was a warlock, which is basically when a human like borrows magic, like I think makes some sort of deal with a demon to get some temporary magic. So apparently that was not the Shadow King. He wasn't involved in that at all. So it seems like there's maybe a new villain on the scene. So it's feeling, you know, a little bit filler-y in a way. The fact that we're gonna maybe have some like new villains kind of randomly come in, and it's gonna really get dragged out between Bree and the Shadow King. Bree, I also don't think I mentioned, but the Shadow King took away her memories of all of her loved ones, which is kind of an interesting factor. It's made her be better at training because she's not getting distracted thinking about, you know, Nick, Selwyn, or Alice, or her dad, or any of her loved ones. So that's interesting to see, like, if her memory loss is going to continue when she's done training. Like, is it going to be kind of an amnesia trope where she has to get to know the other characters again? That could definitely be interesting for the romances. I was a little sad because every time she thought of Nick, even though she doesn't really remember, she kept saying she felt a longing. But when she thought of Sel, or the Merlin, because she doesn't remember his name, she was feeling like only guilt. And I was like, okay, that doesn't bode well for my ship of Bree and Selwyn if she's not feeling like a longing or attraction for him. But now the king just kind of prompted her to remember, or he kind of told her that she had a thing with the Merlin, and now she's kind of remembering a little bit of having those feelings for him. So I appreciated that. But yeah, that's basically what's going on. Part 2 is definitely a lot more interesting, which I'm glad, because it was a little rough in the beginning part. That is my update for now. Hello vlog. I have finally started packing for my work trip, which is great. I've packed all my clothes, and I've also finally reached part 3 of Oathbound. As you saw, I'm 350 pages in. Some things have definitely been going on in this last section. We are getting Bree's point of view, but we have also been getting the other 3 points of view as well. Looks like we are getting those throughout the whole book. And then, as I just saw at the beginning of part 3, we are finally getting Nick's point of view as well, which I know I was hoping for earlier. Basically, on the side of Mariah, her and what's his name, Valak, are going on a little mission. Honestly, I forget what they're trying to do. We haven't had a chapter from them in a little bit, but they're doing something, and I think it's going to lead to them meeting up with Bree pretty soon, which is exciting. Then going back to Bree, her and her little twin duo reported back to the Shadow King about what they found out on that little errand that they went to, which is that they're trying to find the king's crown. It's some sort of similar magical like weapon and item, similar to how Excalibur is for Bree, how it kind of amps up her power and stuff like that, I guess. But it's the same thing for him, and he's been without it for like many years, and so he's on a quest to get it to, I guess, have more power. And for some reason Bree is okay with him getting that because it will allow him, I don't even know what, it's something where it's gonna stop him from sucking magic from the other like root crafters, because it's gonna like give him enough magic where he doesn't have to feed on other, you know, young root crafters that Bree obviously is trying to save. So I guess that makes sense. So yeah, they are trying to get this crown for him, and it leads to them going to this event that I think is where they're going to meet up with Mariah. While they were getting some information about this event, actually, I should say, Natasha, so Selwyn's mom, Bree, runs into Natasha, and Natasha like doesn't really know what's been going on. So she recognized Bree, but that's really it. And then when she comes back to see Selwyn, where she's kind of keeping him captive, he immediately smells Bree on her, and he's kind of freaking out, and he's like, where is she? And then he ends up telling her, or she puts things together, that Bree is the scion of Arthur, that he has feelings for her, and like that Bree's wrapped up in all this. So now Natasha's kind of like clued into what's going on. But obviously she doesn't want to let Selwyn anywhere near her right now because he is still full demon. That's going on. Still always love to see Sel, even though it's like upsetting to see him in this state, but anyways, still want to see him. And then in terms of Nick, so at first we were still getting William's point of view, learning a little bit more about what they've been doing for months, which is basically nothing. They've just been trying to find the Morgaines and not really having much luck. And then finally they come into contact with the one Morgaine who we've seen before. I don't really remember her from the previous books. I think her name was Ava or something like that. And basically Nick kind of leaves Will and Larkin. He's like, I'm gonna do the rest of this quest on my own and not have you guys wrapped up in it. So now I think Will and Larkin are like out of the picture. I think that's why now we're getting Nick's point of view in whatever I read next. We had this scene. Okay, so they go to this like auction, and we're seeing from Bree's point of view, and she's gonna try and steal the crown, which is her ultimate goal. And then she's down trying to steal it, and then this guy comes in, and they're like fighting in the dark. And the way they're fighting, like it's not a demon, it seems to be a human, and I'm just like, oh my god, like it's one of our characters. It's either Sel or Nick. I mean, it's pretty obvious it was Nick, but I was kind of getting my hopes up that maybe it was Sel, just because, as you can tell, he's my fave. I think that's a pretty quick recap of everything that's happened. I feel like I've recapped it pretty quick. But yeah, I feel like more interesting things are happening. And it's really good that all of our characters are going to be, I think, meeting at this event, especially Bree and Nick. It's looking pretty good. I guess I think I'm only like halfway. Maybe a little more. And it's Tuesday, so it's looking good that I can finish for Friday. I don't know. We'll have to see. Knock on wood. Oh, Tracy. I see what she is doing here. I see what she has decided to do with this book. She saw people like me in the second book shipping Bree with Selwyn way too much. And she said, no, you need to ship Bree with Nick, actually. And so she's trying to correct that, I think. But let me catch you up to where I'm at, and please let me know in the comments your opinion on the love triangle in this book and the couples and what you've shipped, because to be honest, it's what I'm most invested in. But I'm on page 437, and this has definitely been the best section of the book that I have read so far. Really getting invested in it. I have a little bit of mixed feelings about the romance that's happening. Okay, but basically what I said in my last update ended up happening, of all of our main characters converging at this one demonic event. It is this auction for a bunch of objects. The magical object, the crown, is the one that our main characters are of course after, but it's mainly a bunch of humans at this party, and there are some demons that are like running the event. So Bree sneaks in with Zoe, and they have this plan to go try to find the crown down in the basement where they're keeping all of the objects that they're going to be auctioning off. And Bree gets into a fight with someone. She cannot see what they look like because it's in the dark. So basically what I had said before about how her losing her memories could lead to some cute moments with her and her loved ones and her romances once she sees them again, and that's basically what's playing out, because it's Nick. He recognizes her, she of course does not recognize him. They just start having these interactions together at this place that are like really cute. Like they're having a cute banter. I don't remember Nick having such a personality. I guess because I've been so focused on Selwyn, and because I read the books years ago, the first two. When did Nick get such a good personality? Because they are having such cute conversations and interactions, and like you can feel the tension. That's why I say I have mixed feelings, because ultimately I ship her with Selwyn, but I'm feeling the things I'm supposed to be feeling for her and Nick. Like they are actually being really cute together. So, and then because they have to act like they snuck off together to not get caught, they have to act like they were just sneaking off as a couple to like make out, and so then they have to make out for the guards to come find them. So they're having this like forced proximity. It's like fake dating. They then have to pretend to be fiancés, and they kind of swap identities, because then we find out that not only is Nick there, but Mariah's there, which we knew was going to happen. And then Ava, who's from the Morganes, is also there. So they do a little bit of switching identities, but basically they're all having fake identities to be there. The people running the event like know that there were people trying to break in and trying to steal stuff. So now they are on high alert, and they've extended the event multiple days that our characters are going to have to stay there and go through kind of like an investigation before the auction actually takes place again. So anyways, they are all stuck together in this hotel or whatever for multiple days. Nick and Bree are sharing a room, so again, just a lot of forced proximity, a lot of tension between them. They did not share a bed the first night, but I suspect they probably will in one of these other nights. I'm enjoying it. I'm liking seeing all of these characters interacting together, seeing Nick and Bree especially, but I do just wish it was Selwyn. I don't know, but yeah, I am kind of shipping her with him as well now, which I don't think I have since like the first book. But here's the thing, like the Scion, which apparently you're not supposed to pronounce the C, so apparently it's Scion, not Skyon. The Scion of Arthur and Lancelot are not supposed to be together, right? So they have this forbiddenness to their relationship, but I think they still could be endgame, because if they decide to like dismantle this whole Arthurian setup, the order, I feel like they're gonna dismantle it by the end of the series, and they're gonna stop all of these cycles with the Legendborn, because they're gonna beat, you know, the demons and they're gonna win the war. So I just feel like there's gonna be no more need for like the Scions and all of that stuff. So I actually feel like they might end up together because of that, which I have mixed feelings about, because I ultimately ship her with Sel, but I'm still finding them cute. So yeah, that's been the major revelation here. So it looks like we're gonna stay in this setting for a while longer. I assume some stuff's gonna go down. I feel like they're gonna get caught. We'll have to see. Maybe they will actually be successful now that we have like 5 of them or 6 of them working together. So yeah, we have about 200 pages left. I should have a lot of time to read tonight. I basically just have to do my workout and shower and then read, and that's all that's on my to-do list. So should be able to crack 500 pages tonight, hopefully. Alright, it's me back with another vlog update for Oathbound. I'm about 550 pages in now, which means I'm 100 pages till the end, so only one more update after this. I feel like I've been updating so much for this book. But yeah, let's recap the last 100 pages. I feel like personally, this setting, like the fact that so much of this book ended up taking place at this hotel, at this auction, it was kind of dragging out a little long for me. I know this series was originally going to be a trilogy and they bumped it up to 4 books. I feel like you can tell in this book that things are really getting dragged out in certain ways. So I don't love that. It's feeling like, I guess I'm close enough to the end, I could probably predict a bit of my rating. It's feeling like not a 5 stars. It's feeling like a 4-star, I'm gonna guess. We'll see what the last part of it brings. Our main characters, who are all stuck there together, ended up kind of all just revealing all the different secrets that they had. Like pretty much everything became out in the open. All of Bree's secrets, all of, you know, Mariah's intel, all of Nick's information. Nick's came a little bit later, actually. He had some more intel recently that I'll get to. But anyways, basically they were just surviving through the weekend. There were a couple like attacks that happened. Michael obviously was questioning people for that like investigation that was going on of like who tried to steal the crown. And then Nick and Bree ended up hooking up a little bit more. Like they really embraced their feelings for each other, you could say. Bree, it's understandable why, right? She doesn't remember Sel. She doesn't remember where she left things off with Nick. She just really has this like attraction and longing for him. Nick, of course, he loves Bree, so he's just kind of going with it as well. So they do have some intimate moments together, cherishing the time that they have. And then when it's finally Nick and Bree's turn to be interviewed by Michael, Nick actually sacrifices and said, I'll answer double the amount of questions so Bree doesn't have to answer them. And Michael does that, and basically he just really ends up drilling him about his feelings for Bree and the whole love triangle situation. It was a way to not reveal too much of their motivations of being there, but also kind of humiliate Nick in a way, because he had to admit that like Bree and his best friend have like a thing together and that he's heartbroken by the situation and stuff like that. That was a pretty big moment emotionally emotionally for the characters. It does kind of give me hope for my Selwyn and Bree shipping heart that this is maybe like the close of Bree and Nick, but we will have to see. Nick ends up revealing to Bree that the deal that he made with the Morgaines, aka Ava and the Morgaines, is that he has a piece of this crown in him. And this was actually interesting because there's so much going on in this world. I cannot understand it 100%, but it was interesting to learn a little bit more about the Morgaines to kind of understand them a bit more, because I feel like we haven't been given much explanation. But basically, Morgaine, who I call Morgana because I'm used to this show Merlin from BBC Merlin, the original Morgaine, who is Arthur's sister and who was Merlin's prodigy, she wanted to live forever or have like a similar situation as like Arthur, of like passing down through generations. So she kind of created it for herself. They took possession of the Shadow King's crown, and they've been using it, putting a piece of the crown in to themselves, and then when they touch each other, Morgaine's like consciousness will go into them. So this is the part I don't fully understand, but Nick put a piece of it in him. So I think he's going to use that strategy to take Arthur out of Bree, and that's why he was kind of hesitant to touch her before. So I don't fully understand the plan, but I think what he's saying is he wants to take Arthur out of her, and then he can become the scion of Arthur again and kind of sacrifice himself for her, which leads me to think maybe that will happen, and maybe Nick will be our main character that ends up perishing by the end of the series, like making a sacrifice, because he was the one raised and like groomed to be the scion of Arthur. It kind of makes sense that he would just like embrace that and save Bree from that fate that she never expected and, you know, didn't deserve to have to face. So that was interesting, but then will that work if he's already the scion of Lancelot? Like, how's that gonna work? So interesting development. And then basically shit hits the fan when they finally do the auction. Ava from the Morgaines wins the crown, but then they come up with one last final item, and it is the root magic from the girls that have been getting kidnapped. Michael ultimately is the one who's been kidnapping the root crafter girls that Bree was wanting to save. She thought the Shadow King was taking them, but it was Michael. And then this man from the Order comes in and he like bids and wins the girls and their power. It's like modern day slavery happening. Basically they're like, okay, who cares about the crown? Like, we need to save these girls. Like, that is the ultimate goal. But then that guy from the Order gets away, and then we find out the freaking Shadow King has actually been here the entire time in a disguise as a warlock. So he actually has been involved the whole time, which I kind of liked because it was feeling so filler. It was feeling like, oh, we have this new villain and this new situation that isn't even related to the main plot. But having the Shadow King involved again, it kind of like made it all come back together and show that he is the true ultimate villain. And yeah, he has all our main characters locked up now in like a little jail cell, I guess, and he's going off to deal with stuff. So our main characters basically need to break out. They need to save those girls, and I assume they are not going to get their hands on the crown, and that plot line will continue for the fourth and final book of finally getting the crown. It is a lot. Like, this series honestly is a lot. If you want just like a chill, relaxed book, you don't need to pay too much attention. That is not this series. Like, there's so much going on with the world building. And, oh, and then the very last chapter I read, getting into this final part 5 or whatever, we saw Natasha. Selwyn has escaped from her, so she's trying to find him. And she just went and met Bree's dad, I think, to come finally clue him in on what's going on. So hopefully this last part will involve Selwyn a little bit. I assume maybe he'll finally find Bree at the very end of this book. I don't know. One last check-in is coming as soon as I finish this book. It is my last night home before I leave for my trip, so I really need to finish it tonight because I don't know if I'll have time to finish it tomorrow. Hello, I finished Oathbound last night. A lot happened in the last 100 pages. I should have known. It was a roller coaster. The second last chapter, I wish I had been filming myself. I should have filmed my reaction as I was reading, because if you know, you know, the second last chapter, I was pissed. I was like, is this real? I believed it, and I was so mad. And then the last chapter kind of fixed things. Still a crazy ending, still a crazy like cliffhanger for this. Anyways, let's catch back up here. Last time I checked in, they were, you know, in prison at the hotel. Basically, Valak came and saved them. Valak the Cambion. So love that. And then I was wrong about them not dealing with the crown in this book. They actually dealt with the crown and the Rootcraft girls. So as they were escaping, they were like, oh, the crown is literally down here with us. And so they just literally snatch it, take it, So they end up getting what they wanted, of getting the king's crown, and they go back to like a safe haven, Valak's lounge or whatever, to like regroup. All of our characters are there together, and Bree has like an epiphany, and she's like, I know where they're keeping the Rootcraft girls in the Institute, because now the Order is in possession of them. So she calls up William and Larkin. They come back into the picture, they're relevant again, and basically they go off of Bree's tip. They save the girls, they bring them back to Hazel and Lucille's like house or whatever. Yeah, all the girls are saved, and so they just kind of feed them and help them, and then their parents pick them up, and so that was solved, so that's nice. In the meantime, you know, everyone else is learning about Bree's missing memories, and Valak does some little mind stuff. He goes into her mind and starts like looking around in there, and he finds out that what's been going on is that a piece of her soul has been taken. The king literally took her part of her soul. He knew what he was doing, and the reason he was able to do that is because when Bree like destroyed her connection to her ancestors, which I don't think I talked about in this vlog because I didn't know how relevant it would be, but she like stopped the connection between like her and Arthur because he was like going crazy and like possessing her and stuff. When she did that, it like fractured her soul, and then the king was able to take it. But she's been having like scar tissue, like her soul's kind of been like repairing itself a little bit, regrowing, but basically she's like, I want my soul back. So that was kind of crazy. And then yeah, as they're all just kind of chilling here for a bit, Nick and Bree have some more intimate moments. I think they did it, like I think they had sex, but it's one of those things where YA, it's very unclear because of how those scenes are described, because they're not detailed obviously, so not exactly sure what happened there, but they definitely were intimate together. And then Natasha shows up with Bree's dad, so she's able to reconnect with her dad, which is really nice. And we really have the whole crew there other than Selwyn, but Natasha reveals that Selwyn is like, he's escaped, he's on the hunt for Bree. And it really felt like Twilight in this moment. It felt like the first Twilight book where like James is hunting Bella and he's after her, and all of the characters have to try to like distract him and go their separate ways, because that's literally what happened. They all like take a piece of Bree's magic and like go different ways to kind of like take her scent in other directions, and then she is going off with some of the characters in like a different direction, literally giving Twilight. She ends up going off with Zoe, with Nick, and with Mariah, and they end up bumping into Elijah, which is Zoe's brother who we haven't seen in a while, and then Sel appears. Very creepy, still kind of giving James some Twilight. We finally have this scene of Sel like connecting with Bree and Nick again. He's really antagonizing. He's really giving Damon from the Vampire Diaries, which is why I love him. Like, he is so Damon coded. The whole love triangle is, I think, similar to Vampire Diaries. But yeah, clearly he's like demonic, but I don't know, like he's not totally gone in my opinion. Nick and Bree end up going to meet the Shadow King because they had a deal with him where they were going to trade the crown for Bree's soul to come back. They go to do that, and basically he's like, no, I'm not going to give your soul back, but if you give me the crown, then like the bargain that we have, like the thing that he has over her where he can like ask her to do something at any point, he's like, that'll be done, like you won't owe me anything anymore, but like I'm not giving you your soul back. And then they have this like epic fight. Like Mariah gets in there, she's doing something to him, Bree's doing something. They basically take her soul back. So they kind of double cross him because they originally were like gonna make this deal of trading the crown for her memory, but instead they just like take the memory and then don't give him the crown. They are in the better position now, you could say. Then Selwyn shows back up. He like wants to touch the crown, and Bree is like, no, like if a demon touches it you might die, but he's like in a really chaotic state, and he's like, oh, might, like I'm still gonna touch it. And then a really weird thing happened where like we realize her blood mark that she's been experiencing from the Shadow King, suddenly she starts experiencing it from Sel. And I didn't fully understand. I'm like, okay, I'll just keep reading. They're like, oh, it can be inherited. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I was like, I didn't really think about it. And then Sel picks up the crown and it like kills him. And that's why it seemed like he was dead at the second last chapter. It's like Selwyn Kane is dead. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This is why they're connecting Bree and Nick again, because they're going to kill Selwyn. I was so mad. And then the next chapter happens and he like transforms. And the crown like transforms him. And basically what it turns out being is that he has now become like the Prince of Shadows, like the Shadow Prince. And apparently he is like descended from the Shadow King, like that's his dad. So that is a huge reveal. I don't know how that makes sense. We're gonna have to find out in the next book. But the very last like chapter, or the very last line, here we stand and here we are, a king, a knight, and a prince. What shall we do? And they put his font, now he's speaking in the different font for some reason, a little bolded font. Yeah, somehow he's like the new Shadow King. I don't know, but this is getting crazy. I don't know if it bodes well for him and Bree ending up together. If he is some like demon king now. But very interesting. This next book, which I believe is the last book, is gonna have to include a lot of stuff. I think I'm gonna go with what I predicted last update of 4 stars, because I'm still really enjoying this world and Bree and Nick and Sel and everything, but the beginning was so slow for me, and then Selwyn was missing for so much of this book, and he is my favorite part. I'm sorry, but he is. The fact that we caught him at the end, I just loved that section of the book. Even seeing him kind of full demon, like it still was just nice to see him and his little sarcasm, and like I just love him. This was a